It was a struggle. The first house that we lived in was my wife's uncle just bought a new house in Shanghai, and it was totally unfinished. And we were kind of on the tail end of winter, so it's still very cold, about 5 degrees Celsius-ish. And we didn't have heating, we didn't even have a wardrobe, we didn't have internet. And the worst thing was there is no coffee.
You're watching Yana TV, where we have authentic conversations with impactful and conscious people of Asia. And today with us, we have a guest who spent 16 years in China, and I'm super curious, given that he's a Singaporean, how was his experience? Let's welcome CJNG. You're Singaporean, that's correct?
I'm Singaporean, yes.
You spent 16 years in China?
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes.
Now I want to hear all about that experience.
Okay.
So when did you go and why did you go?
Oh, I was there in February 2004. And generally, it's like I was looking for a job and I couldn't find a job in Singapore.
And so you went to mainland China, right?
And then I went to mainland
That's
China,
what people usually do. Yes.
Well, I'm married to a mainland Chinese with some...
Did you meet her in China?
I met her in Singapore. She was in Singapore, and then she decided to abduct me over there. Yes.
I'm already liking this conversation. My husband would agree with you. Okay, so you went to China.
Yes.
And how was your experience when you arrived there first? Like, did you feel, because you're a Chinese Singaporean.
Yes.
So did you feel more foreigner or more local?
Very much foreigner. And by the way, I do speak good Chinese. We were a Chinese-speaking family. Growing up at home. And then I just realized that a lot of things that we say in Singapore, the Chinese we say in Singapore, are literal translations from dialects and not the official Mandarin.
For example?
So the term for shampoo, I was told in China, was 洗发精, the essence of washing hair. Whereas in Singapore, it's washing hair water.
Okay.
洗头水. No, it's washing head water. So it sounds more cruder and less polished in Singapore. Actually, when I first went there, even though I tried to blend in with the Chinese accent over there, normally people can tell I'm not from the same place. I think I'm darker looking skin, the fairer skin, so it's from somewhere from the south.
Okay.
There's more sun. And the other thing is like, for some reason, they know I'm from somewhere Southeast Asia from my look. So maybe my genes changed a little after 2 generations of my dad and myself in Singapore. Well, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. The first house that we lived in was my wife's uncle just bought a new house in Shanghai, and it was totally unfinished. And we were kind of on the tail end of winter. We were there like end of February, so it's still very cold, about 5 degrees Celsius-ish. And we didn't have heating, we didn't even have a wardrobe. It was really an unfinished building. We didn't have internet, or we didn't have broadband. And the worst thing was there is no coffee. I mean, that was in 2004, so long ago. Right now, I can get latte at around Sing dollars, $2, and anywhere in Shanghai ish. And back then it was like there's no decent coffee.
What else was lacking?
A lot of creature comforts that we really take for granted in Singapore was lacking. First of all, I didn't know how cold it could be in Shanghai.
My winter coat that I moved to Singapore 16 years ago, it's molded by now, so it was never used, clearly.
And the kind of coldness in Shanghai is people from Beijing, for the north, supposed to be colder. But even when they come to Shanghai, they felt that Shanghai was colder, as in felt colder, because it's cold and wet. It's humid, cold, and of course the coffee, the Straits Times. I never knew I could miss the Straits Times. And then when I was there, it's like there was no English newspaper. The kind of newspapers over there and the kind of newspapers we have over here are very different. I'm bilingual, but English is still my native language, my fallback. I can read Chinese, and after 16 years in China, I can read Chinese as good as I can read English. But when I first got there, it wasn't that instantaneous in that sense. So there's no English newspaper. There are little things that we really take for granted. And again, coffee, like $1 kopi in Singapore, nada.
Okay, well now since we all know those funny stories, I want to hear the funniest story. A scary and a crazy moment that happened to you.
I literally bumped around for the first year. I couldn't find a really good job that I like in Singapore. I got a friend who went to Shanghai couple of months before I did, and he had a joint venture to do corporate training over there. And I thought it would be a good idea to fly there and join up and get some gigs. And unfortunately, the partner prefers someone who is local Shanghainese for a very valid reason, because someone who knows the corporate environment there definitely can do a much better job than I do. But I was there and I was jobless, and I kind of bumped around only with, I don't know, for the whole year income, I made about 5,000 Sing dollars for the whole year. So,
how did you survive?
I scrimmed from some savings. We got some rental income, and it was really, really horrible. And eventually I got a job based on that.
So what was the funny part?
The funny part was I tried to learn Shanghainese, and somehow things didn't turn out the way that I intended to. So meanings get interpreted wrongly. So it was something like I was saying something's fabulous, and it sounded like something was ridiculous. That kind of a really total misinterpretation. And at some point of time, people thought that, you must have come from the US because you don't seem to understand Chinese at all.
That's funny. So the crazy moment.
Crazy and a bit scary was I stopped to thefts/robberies twice. I stopped to robbery thefts. The first one was when I was crossing the road, and I saw this thieves trying to snitch from someone's pocket, and I shouted, and there was not just one person, there were three. I was literally shouting, "Thief!" And there were three guys who popped up instead of one, and we had a standoff, but we were crossing the road, so the traffic lights blinking, so I was going the other side. They kind of went to the other end, and that was the end of the story. The other one was in a bus in southern China, in Dongguan, where this was once upon a time kind of the snatch thief kind of place. I had a colleague who was being robbed while riding a motorcycle. So the place does not have taxis in some of the more far-off areas. And if you want to hitch a ride, you pay a motorcycle taxi. So you ride pillion riding, and that rider will bring you to somewhere else, to where you want to go. And she was robbed by another motorcycle with one of the thieves riding and the other thief snatching her bag.
Right.
So it looks straight out of Hollywood. So that was what kind of thing. And in that place, I kind of stopped another thief, and he was not happy and pulled out his knife.
That's scary. Right, after all those amazing stories and your 16 years in China, what are the differences, if are any, you feel between Singaporean Chinese and mainland Chinese? Okay, let's talk about Shanghai, maybe more specific, right? Because Singapore, Shanghai.
Well, that's something about Shanghai, and I think that piece of information comes a bit late for you. Because Shanghainese men makes the best husbands.
It's a bit late. I'm happily married for many years already. If I knew that, I would have definitely went to Shanghai. Now, please enlighten me. Now I'm curious. I will tell my husband at home.
So, first of all, you need to hold a good job, decent job. You need to feed the family.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense. That's one. Number two, you need to do the housework. There is a term in Chinese, mataso, which means ma is to buy, Dang is to wash, and Sa is to fry or cook. So you do the shopping, you do the washing, and you do the cooking, plus your job, the full-time job. And the Shanghainese wives basically just enjoy life. And
you're not kidding,
kids.
right? This isn't
No,
supposed to be another funny story.
It's not. It's true. It's true. So we have neighbors who are kind of general managers of companies and drives a BMW home. And the moment he gets home, he will ride on his bicycle, go to the market, buys dinner, cooks dinner, and trains his 2 sons to do the same.
Wow.
So the sons, no, because they study, the school's kind of distance from the home. The sons wake up real early in the morning, makes breakfast for everybody in the family, and then went to school.
And if they have girls, what do they do?
Oh,
Learn to enjoy life?
learn to enjoy life and how to lead and command the other house.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think now all the female population,
Yeah.
of our audience who are unmarried, going to go to Shanghai.
Yeah. So
There are many bachelors there who could be potentially great husbands.
I mean, as I said, my 2 boys, they're both born in Shanghai, and before baby number 1 came out, there was a training program by the hospital on how to bathe the baby, and clean up the baby, and feed the baby, bottle feeding, and all that. So I was made to join, and I'm not the only guy around, so half the room were guys.
Wow.
And yes, that's how I became an expert in diaper changing. Yes.
That's very interesting because yes, as you know, I have a small baby at home, and
Yeah.
it's entirely different. Actually, in Singapore, almost everywhere you go, pretty much any activity, it is 99% mothers who show up here. So, or maybe couples, but I have never actually seen just a father who would do this. Very interesting. Okay, so let's say that as Singaporeans, and I'm saying it proudly as a Singaporean too, that we can learn from China or Shanghainese men in particular. What do you think the other way around?
Chinese people are always thinking about how I can do things better. That's a good part. The only thing is that it's not documented, it's not procedural, it's very spontaneous. Just get things done and do things better. So if it's just taking initiative, the Chinese are great. If you're looking for procedures, systems, and follow rules, then there's something that they probably can learn more from Singaporeans. If there's something that there's a need to give direct feedback, good is good, bad is bad, and that's how the Singapore law by law way of doing things and saying things. And sometimes the Chinese tend to be a bit more indirect and too contextual, and you don't really know, do they like you, do they don't like you, is it good, is it bad, or what do you want me to do? So if they can learn to be a little bit more direct.
There is this maybe common misconception, so please help me to understand. There is this very common view around the world, and definitely portrayed in the media, that Chinese people are largely motivated by money. So my question is it true in your experience?
I think it really depends on which part of China, which year, which era are you looking at in China. So when I went then in 04 and 05, China just joined WTO in 2001. So everything is on the rise, and you find that assets are appreciating, people are buying houses, and in a couple of years, the houses kind of flipped and increased in value by 2 times, 3 times, and all that. So during those earlier years, yes, very much motivated by money. Now it's like, I don't want to lose what I have, therefore I work hard. So there is a lot of mentality of how can myself and my children or my next generation are able to preserve whatever material possessions that they had. So it's more anxious than really trying to do more. So it's not really that much now. And for the younger people, they kind of don't care that much anymore, because a lot of people, if they don't have assets that they can inherit, they'll find that no matter how hard they work, and for 30 years of working, they will not be able to afford a house in Shanghai.
Wow.
So
Is that expensive?
yeah, it's just too high, and the wages are not really growing that much. And right now, the economy is not doing well. There are a lot of jobless young people around. Things are not rosy at the moment. And for the younger generation, a lot of people are like, I work because I need to survive. And either that, or I just go back to my hometown and be happy with whatever it is. If I'm in a big city like Shanghai, Beijing, or Guangzhou, then it's all just about surviving, and hopefully things turn to for the better.
So CJ, when I look at you, I mean, to me, you speak very well. You're clearly very well spoken, so I can see by English your mother tongue, and you're very well put together. So I assume you're very successful. So tell me what it is that you do.
I'm a certified coach. I help salespeople to be better salespeople, or the whole sales team to be better sales team. And no worries, I'm not going to sell anything today. I service industrial companies, customers. So it's all B2B sales, business to business. A lot of chemical companies, a lot of industrial automation, and maybe some in what I call enterprise type of IT systems. So those are my customers, and I help them to grow better as salespeople.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, sales, I think it's a very needed, common topic for everyone. It's B2B, B2C. It doesn't matter which industry you're in. Not necessarily you're in a sales department, but even if you work for someone, you have to sell yourself so they hire you.
Yeah.
Now I am curious for you to share with us 3 tips.
Okay.
What anyone can do without any sales training to sell themselves or their products better.
So the first thing I always say is, no, if you want to be good in sales, don't sell. The idea of selling is getting you to part with your hard-earned money for something, right? And why would you want that something? Now, if you really want to sell well, you need to find what is the reason for you to want that something in the first place. So if I were to just push to you that something without any context, your reaction is to stay away from me. But on the other hand, if we have a conversation like what we are having today, and I'm able to find out what are your aspirations, what are some of the things that you are considering, you're thinking about, and I say that, hey, I got this something that can help you get to that better place. Would you like to find out more?
Got it. Well, I think I will definitely take this into consideration. So, what is success for you?
Things are changing so quickly. And what was success, if you asked me 5 years ago, and now can be very different things, and things tend to change all the time. And you're right to say that, if there is one thing that changed less, that's probably a fulfilled life, something that I'm okay with, I'm at peace with, and which is in a way I'm kind of living that kind of life as it is right now. I now work from home. I travel to China because most of my customers are still in China. But most of the time, if I'm at home, and I can be with my kids, my wife, and when I was in Shanghai, the things I learned from the Shanghainese husbands were how to take care of the kids. COVID taught me how to cook. So my transformation to be a Shanghainese husband is now complete.
And with that, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. And that was CJNG on Yana TV talking about his experience in China, 16 years. And I'm curious if there are any other Singaporeans in our audience who have been to China professionally or personally, especially if you live there. So what do you think? Do you agree? Are you disagree? What is your experience? Let me know in the comments and share this episode, connect with us, subscribe, and I'm going to see you next time.
Hey, Yana, you got my last name right.
I did,
Thank
right?
you.
So I'm so proud of myself.
Yes.